relentless storm. A mysterious woman with a baby. Stranded in the cold. When tech mogul Logan Blake offers him shelter, he has no idea that this single act of kindness will drag him into a dangerous web of secrets, power, and a past that refuses to stay buried. As trust grows and hearts soften, dark forces from her life close in, and Logan must decide how far he's willing to go to protect a woman and child he just met. But some storms aren't so easily escaped, and this one might destroy everything. Why was she running? And what deadly truth was about to shatter their fragile sanctuary? Watch now to uncover the chilling mystery. The rain poured relentlessly, drenching the city streets as Logan Blake drove his sleek black car through the storm. The windshield wipers worked furiously, barely keeping up with the deluge. Logan, a tech entrepreneur known for his sharp mind and guarded heart, was on his way home after a long day of meetings. His penthouse, a symbol of his success, awaited him, a sterile, modern space that reflected his solitary life. As he turned a corner, his headlights caught a figure huddled under a bus stop shelter. A woman, clutching a baby to her chest, stood shivering in the cold. Something about her desperate posture made Logan slow down. He hesitated for a moment, then pulled over. "Need a ride," he called out, rolling down the window. The woman looked up, her eyes wide with fear and relief. She nodded, clutching the baby tighter. Logan got out, holding his coat over her and the child as he ushered them into the warmth of his car. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm Claire, and this is Max." Logan nodded, his curiosity piqued. "Logan Blake, where can I take you?" Claire hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. I don't have anywhere to go." Logan's brow furrowed. He glanced at the baby, who was now sleeping peacefully in Claire's arms. Something about their vulnerability struck a chord deep within him. "All right," he said finally. "You can stay at my place for the night. We'll figure things out in the morning." Logan's penthouse was a stark contrast to the storm outside. The sleek, minimalist design was cold and impersonal, but it was warm and dry. Claire looked around, her eyes wide with awe and gratitude. "Thank you," she said again, her voice barely above a whisper. Logan shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "It's no problem. Make yourself at home." As Claire settled Max on the couch, Logan couldn't help but notice the bruises on her arms. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He handed her a blanket and a cup of tea, then retreated to the kitchen to give her some space. Later that night, as the storm raged on, Claire finally opened up. She told Logan about her father, Charles Montgomery, a billionaire with a reputation for ruthlessness. She revealed how he controlled every aspect of her life, how he had become abusive after her mother's death, and how he was now determined to take Max away from her. "I ran away," Claire said, her voice breaking. "I couldn't let him take my son. But now, I have nothing. No money, no home, no one to turn to." Logan listened in silence, his mind racing. He had always been a man of action, and the injustice of Claire's situation ignited a fire within him. "You're not alone anymore," he said firmly. "I'll help you." The next morning, Logan began to put his plan into action. He called his lawyer, a sharp and ruthless woman named Evelyn Carter, and explained the situation. Evelyn agreed to take on Claire's case, but she warned Logan that Charles Montgomery was a formidable opponent. Charles has connections, money, and no scruples. Evelyn said, "This won't be easy." Logan nodded, his determination unwavering. "We'll fight him with everything we've got." As the days turned into weeks, Logan and Claire grew closer. Max, with his infectious laughter and innocent smiles, began to melt the ice around Logan's heart. The sterile penthouse slowly transformed into a home, filled with the sounds of laughter and the warmth of family. But the threat of Charles Montgomery loomed large. He hired private investigators to track Claire down, and his lawyers filed motion after motion to gain custody of Max. Logan and Evelyn worked tirelessly, uncovering evidence of Charles's corruption, bribes, and abuse. The day of the custody hearing arrived, and the tension was palpable. Charles Montgomery, with his expensive suit and cold, calculating eyes, sat across the courtroom from Claire and Logan. His legal team was formidable, but Logan and Evelyn were prepared. Evelyn presented their case with precision and passion. She called witnesses who testified to Charles's abusive behavior, presented documents that exposed his illegal activities, and played recordings of his threats against Claire. The evidence was damning, but Charles's lawyers fought back with every trick in the book. As the hearing dragged on, Logan could see the strain on Claire's face. He reached over and took her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. She looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. Finally, the judge called for a recess. The tension in the courtroom was unbearable as everyone waited for the verdict. When the judge returned, the room fell silent. He looked at Claire, then at Charles, and finally at the evidence before him. After careful consideration, the judge began, "I rule in favor of Claire Montgomery. Full custody of Max is granted to her, and Charles Montgomery is to have no contact with either of them." Claire gasped, tears streaming down her face. Logan pulled her into a tight embrace, relief flooding through him. They had won. With the legal battle behind them, Logan and Claire began to build a new life together. The penthouse, once a symbol of Logan's isolation, was now filled with love and laughter. Max grew into a happy, healthy toddler, and Claire blossomed under Logan's unwavering support. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Logan turned to Claire with a nervous smile. "Claire," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I never thought I'd find someone who could change my life the way you have. You and Max have brought so much joy into my world. I can't imagine my life without you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it, he revealed a beautiful diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his heart pounding in his chest. Claire's eyes filled with tears as she nodded. "Yes, Logan. Yes." They kissed, the city lights twinkling around them as they celebrated their love and the new life they had built together. Epilogue, a family's love. Years later, the penthouse was no longer a sterile, modern space. It was a home, filled with the warmth of a family's love. Logan and Claire's family had grown, with the addition of a baby girl named Lily. Max, now a bright and curious boy, adored his little sister and took his role as a big brother seriously. Charles Montgomery's empire had crumbled under the weight of his crimes, and he had faded into obscurity. Claire rarely thought of him, her life now filled with the love and happiness she had always dreamed of. Logan, once a driven and solitary man, had found his true purpose in life, his family. As he watched Claire play with Max and Lily, his heart swelled with gratitude. The storm that had brought them together had been the beginning of their journey, a journey filled with love, redemption, and the promise of a bright future. And so, in the heart of the city, a family thrived, their love a testament to the power of resilience, hope, and the belief that even in the darkest storms, there's always a chance for redemption. Despite their newfound happiness, shadows of the past occasionally crept into their lives. One evening, as Logan was working late in his home office, he received an anonymous email. The subject line read, "You think you've won, Blake?" His heart raced as he opened the message. It was a threat, warning him that Charles Montgomery's influence still lingered and that their safety was not guaranteed. The email contained a grainy photo of Max playing in the park, taken from a distance. Logan's blood ran cold. He immediately called Evelyn, who advised him to increase security around the penthouse and to report the email to the authorities. But Logan knew that wasn't enough. He couldn't risk Claire and Max's safety. That night, he sat Claire down and showed her the email. Her face paled as she read the message, but she remained calm. "We've faced worse," she said, her voice steady. "We'll get through this together." Logan admired her strength, but he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He decided to take matters into his own hands. Using his tech expertise, he traced the email to a small, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. He knew it was risky, but he had to confront the threat head-on. The warehouse was dark and eerily silent as Logan approached. He had called the police, but he couldn't wait for them to arrive. He had to know who was behind the threats. Inside, he found a makeshift office with computers and surveillance equipment. Before he could investigate further, a voice echoed through the empty space. "Logan Blake." The voice sneered. "I knew you'd come." Logan turned to see a man stepping out of the shadows. It was one of Charles Montgomery's former henchmen, a man named Victor. He had been one of Charles's most loyal enforcers, and it was clear he hadn't forgiven Logan for bringing down his boss. "You think you can just walk away after what you did?" Victor growled. "Charles may be gone, but his legacy lives on, and I'm here to make sure you pay." Logan's mind raced. He had to stall for time until the police arrived. "Victor, this is over. Charles is finished. You don't have to do this." Victor laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Oh, but I do. You took everything from us. Now, I'll take everything from you." Before Logan could react, Victor lunged at him. The two men grappled, each fighting for the upper hand. Logan managed to disarm Victor, but not before sustaining a deep cut on his arm. The sound of sirens in the distance gave him hope. Victor heard them too. With a snarl, he pushed Logan away and fled into the night. The police arrived moments later, but Victor was gone. Logan returned home, his arm bandaged and his mind heavy with worry. Claire was waiting for him, her eyes filled with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. Logan nodded, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'm fine, but we need to be careful. Victor's still out there, and he's dangerous." Claire nodded, her resolve firm. "We'll get through this. Together." Over the next few weeks, Logan and Claire worked closely with the police to track down Victor. They increased security around the penthouse and took extra precautions when going out. Despite the constant threat, they refused to let fear dictate their lives. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony, watching the city lights, Claire turned to Logan with a smile. "You know," she said, "no matter what happens, I'm grateful for every moment we have together. You've given me a life I never thought possible." Logan smiled, his heart swelling with love. "And you've given me a family. I'll do whatever it takes to protect that." The police finally caught up with Victor in a remote cabin in the woods. He had been hiding out, planning his next move. When they raided the cabin, Victor put up a fight, but he was no match for the combined forces of the police and Logan's private security team. Victor was arrested and charged with multiple counts of stalking, harassment, and assault. With him behind bars, Logan and Claire could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The trial was swift, and Victor was sentenced to life in prison. As he was led away, he glared at Logan with pure hatred. "This isn't over," Victor spat. "You'll never be safe." But Logan knew better. He had faced down the shadows of the past and emerged stronger. With Claire and Max by his side, he was ready to face whatever the future held. Epilogue: a bright future. Years passed, and the memories of Victor and Charles Montgomery faded into the background. Logan and Claire's family continued to grow, their love and resilience a beacon of hope. Max, now a teenager, excelled in school and had a passion for technology, much like Logan. Lily, their youngest, was a spirited and creative child, always bringing joy to their lives. One evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, Logan looked at his family with a heart full of gratitude. They had faced countless challenges, but they had overcome them together. "To family," Logan said, raising his glass. "To family," Claire echoed, her eyes shining with love. And as they clinked their glasses together, the storm that had once brought them together seemed like a distant memory. They had found their redemption, their love, and their future, a future filled with endless possibilities.